It was a warm July evening, the kind where the Midwest sky turns that deep orange just before dusk, and the lake behind our house looked like it was on fire. 80 people, family, friends, folks we'd known for decades, were gathered around the big bonfire at the lake house. Kids were laughing, running with sparklers. The smell of grilled burgers and wood smoke hung in the air. And there was Rebecca, my wife of 28 years, standing up with a glass in her hand, looking as beautiful as the day I married her. She smiled at the crowd, that confident smile that had closed 1,000 real estate deals, and she started to speak. I was sitting right there in the front, next to our son Tyler and daughter Emma, feeling that familiar swell of pride. This was our night, our family, our 28 years. But then the words came out. Family, she said, her voice carrying clear over the crackle of the fire. We've been through so much together. The good times, the hard ones, the years that try to break us. But tonight, I have to give thanks to the one person who has truly been there when it mattered most. The one who listened to my dreams when they felt too big for this town. The one who gave me the courage to keep going when a market crashed and the listings wouldn't sell. The one who understood the woman I wanted to be, not just a wife and a mom. Derek, you've been that rock for me. Thank you for being the steady presence I could always count on. The silence that followed wasn't the polite kind. It was the heavy kind, the kind that makes your ears ring. Derek, my old friend, the insurance man who'd been at every barbecue, every holiday for 30 years, stood up slow from his chair across the fire. He walked over to her, that easy smile on his face, and pulled her into his arms. Not a quick hug, a real one, the kind that lingers. And right there, in front of our kids, our niece, my brother, her sister, the whole damn family, he kissed her on the cheek and whispered something in her ear that made her laugh softly. I didn't move at first. My boots stayed planted in the grass. My hands didn't clench. I just sat there, feeling the world tilt sideways like that time in the Corps when a mortar round landed too close and the ground shook under you. Tyler's hand gripped my shoulder hard enough to bruise. Emma whispered, "Dad," under her breath. Kayla, our niece, had tears already spilling down her cheeks. And me? I stood up slow, set my glass on the picnic table without a sound, and walked down to the dock. The planks creaked under my weight. The water lapped gently, like it was trying to comfort me. Behind me, the party tried to come back to life. Someone turned the music up. Someone else laughed too loud. But I could hear Rebecca calling my name. Jack! Jack, wait. It wasn't. It came out wrong. I didn't turn around. I just kept walking until I reached the end of the dock, sat down with my legs hanging over the edge, and stared out at the dark water that had held every memory of our life together. My name is Jack Donovan. I'm 51 years old, retired from the Marine Corps after 2 tours that took more from me than I like to admit. Now I'm the head football coach at Lincoln High in Willow Creek, that small town in the heart of the Midwest, where people still believe in Friday night lights and shaking hands after a game. For 28 years, Rebecca was the other half of me. Rebecca Donovan, 49, the real estate agent everyone in 3 counties called when they had a house to sell or a dream to chase. She had that gift, making folks feel seen, making them believe in possibilities. She ran the PDA like a general, organized the church bazaars, chaired the charity galas that raised money for the veterans' home. The whole town loved her, and I loved her more. I was the one who made it all possible. The one who coached the kids through their teenage storms. The one who got up at 5 a.m. to fix the roof after a storm so her open houses could go on. The one who sat with her at the kitchen table during those long winters when the market was dead and the bills piled up, telling her it would be okay. I never needed the credit. I just needed her. We built a life. Tyler, 26 now, fresh out of the Army, working as a deputy sheriff with that same quiet strength I try to pass on. Emma, 23, finishing her nursing degree, the girl who could light up a hospital room just by walking in. And Kayla, 19, the niece we took in after her parents were killed in that awful wreck back when she was 12. She called Rebecca Aunt Mom and followed her everywhere, learning the real estate ropes, dreaming of her own sign in the yard someday. We were the Donovans, the family that stuck, the one people pointed to and said, "See, it can last." But the cracks had been there. Not loud ones, not the kind that shatter plates or raise voices. Quiet ones, the kind that grow over years. Late nights when she'd come home from showings with her makeup a little smudged and that perfume on her skin, something floral and expensive I didn't recognize. Her phone always turned face down on the counter. Those smiles at the screen when she thought I wasn't looking. I'd ask gently, "Beck, you all right? You seem far away." And she'd touch my hand, look at me with those eyes that still got to me after all this time, and say, "The market's tough, Jack. The kids are grown. I'm just processing." I believe her, because after 28 years, you choose to believe. Derek had always been there. Derek Lang, 50, the insurance guy with the quick wit and the golf game that edged mine out every time. We'd known him since college. Double dates, tailgates, family vacations where he'd tag along. He and Rebecca had their little rituals. Coffee runs downtown, inside jokes about old professors, the way they'd finish each other's sentences at dinner. I told myself it was nothing. Old friends, work neighbors in the same building. But last winter, I came home early from a recruiting trip and found them in the living room, her leaning over his shoulder at the laptop, her hand on his arm. They separated too fast. "Just looking at some policy quotes," he said, clapping me on the back. I nodded. But that night, lying in bed, I felt the first real twist in my gut. I didn't rush to accuse. That's not who I am. But after one too many client dinners that kept her out past midnight, I called an old buddy from the Corps, Ruiz, who does private investigations now. "Just keep an eye," I told him. "Confirm what I already suspect." The reports came in over the weeks. Photos of them at a motel off the interstate. Dinners at quiet places 2 counties over. Messages on an app she thought was hidden. Her saying, "You get the parts of me he never did, Derek. With him it's all the same. Football, the kids, the routine. You make me feel alive again." Each one was a quiet knife. Not rage. Not yet. Just this deep sorrow, mixed with the kind of resolve that comes from 20 years in uniform. You learn to wait. You learn to plan. Hey folks, if you're sitting there right now with that ache in your chest, the one that comes when the person you trusted most starts to feel like a stranger, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on the notifications so you don't miss these stories that remind us we're not alone. And drop a comment down below. Have you ever had to sit through a moment like that toast, where everything you thought was solid just cracked? Tell me where you're watching from. Maybe down in Florida with the palm trees, or out in Arizona watching the sunset, or right here in the Midwest where the winters test your soul. I read every one of them. It helps, knowing you're out there. The reunion was supposed to be our fresh start. Rebecca had talked about it for months. 28 years, Jack, she'd said one night, her head on my shoulder on the porch swing. Let's make this one special. A toast to us. To the family. I believed her. I spent the whole week getting the place ready. Mowing the big yard until it looked like a golf green. Stringing lights in the trees until they twinkled like stars. Firing up the smoker at dawn for that perfect brisket. The night came perfect. The lake was still. The fire was roaring. Everyone was there. My brother with his stories from a plant. Her sister teasing about old times. The cousins from Illinois and Indiana. Tyler was manning the grill. Emma was helping Kayla roast marshmallows, their laughter mixing with the crickets. Rebecca stood up as the sun dipped low. She was wearing that yellow sundress I loved from our early days, her hair catching the firelight. The crowd quieted. She raised her glass. And then those words. God, those words. She didn't just thank him. She painted a picture. "Derek," she said, her voice thick with emotion, "you've been the one who showed up for the real conversations. The late nights when I needed to talk about the dreams I buried. The encouragement when the rejections came. The belief in me when it felt like the world had moved on. Thank you for being the person who made me feel seen again." It wasn't just a slip. It was a declaration. And in that moment, every late night, every quiet sacrifice, every time I'd held her through the hard seasons, it all felt like it had been for nothing. Derek stood, walked over, embraced her like she was his. The family shifted uncomfortably. A cousin whispered, "What the hell?" Tyler stood up halfway, then sat back down when I caught his eye. Emma's face went pale. Kayla covered her mouth, tears flowing freely now. I walked the dock, sat there for what felt like hours as the party wound down behind me. People left in awkward groups. Cars pulled away with headlights cutting through the dark. Rebecca came down eventually, her heels clicking on the wood. "Jack," she said, her voice small. It was the champagne, the emotion of the night. "It came out all wrong. You're the one who's always been there. You know that." I looked at her then, really looked. The woman I'd loved. The woman who'd just erased me in front of everyone who mattered. Beck, I said quietly, you said what you meant, and now we both have to live with it. The next morning, the house was quiet. I sent a video, not to the world, but to the family. The full toast, followed by a simple note. Rebecca spoke her truth last night. She's made her choice. For the sake of our children and the years we shared, I'm stepping back. But you all deserve to know the full story. I attached the evidence Ruiz had gathered. The motel receipts. The messages. Not to shame. To clarify. The phone started ringing before the coffee was cold. Her sister called first, voice shaking with anger. Jack, how could she? In front of all of us. After everything you've carried. Tyler came into the kitchen, his deputy's uniform still on from the night shift. Dad, I saw the way he looked at her at Christmas. I wanted to say something, but I thought it was just me. Emma drove up from school that afternoon, hugged me so hard I felt my ribs creak. She doesn't get to rewrite who you are. Not after all the times you were the one who showed up. Kayla didn't say much. She just started boxing up Rebecca's things in the bedroom, folding her clothes with careful hands, like she was closing a chapter she never wanted to read. Rebecca tried everything. She showed up at the school that week, waiting in the parking lot after practice. Jack, please. We can go back to counseling. The kids need both of us. Her eyes were red, her voice pleading. But when I looked at her, I saw the woman who'd stood by that fire and given her truth to someone else. You told the family the man who mattered wasn't me. I said. You can't take that back with words. The divorce papers were already filed. Quiet. Fair, no courtroom battles. The lake house, bought before we married, stayed with me. The kids chose their sides without a word. Tyler moved some of his things back home for a while. Emma called every night. Kayla changed her major and asked me to help her study for her real estate exam, even though the dream now felt tainted. The town talk, of course. Willow Creek isn't big enough to hide much. Whispers at the diner. Did you hear what happened at the Donovans' reunion? Open houses for Rebecca slowed to a trickle. Derek's office saw a few policies canceled. Nothing dramatic, but enough to sting. But I didn't chase it. I coached harder. I sat with the kids on the porch some nights, talking about nothing and everything. Tyler told me stories from his deployment that he'd never shared before. Emma brought home a boy she was seeing, nervous but proud. Kayla got her first day on a business paper and beamed when I signed it. 6 months later, the state coaches' banquet was held in the high school gym. The place was packed, parents, alumni, the team in their jerseys. They called my name for Coach of the Year. I walked up to that podium in my faded polo shirt, the one with the Lincoln High logo worn thin from years of use. The lights were bright. The applause was loud. I looked out and saw Tyler, Emma, and Kayla standing in the front, clapping like they were trying to bring the roof down. I kept my words short. This isn't about the games we win, I said, my voice steady. It's about the young men and women who learn that showing up, day after day, through the losses and the pain, is what makes you who you are. I've been fortunate to have a few people in my life who taught me that, and I'm grateful for the ones who still do. That night, after the crowd thinned, Rebecca texted me. Just one line. I see now what I lost. I read it in the quiet of the truck, the gym lights fading in the rear view. I didn't reply. Some truths, once spoken, don't need answers. They just become part of the story you carry forward. If this one hit you where it hurts, if you've ever stood in a room full of people you love and felt yourself disappear, hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on notifications for more stories like this, the kind that remind us that strength isn't loud. It's steady. Drop a comment below. Have you ever had to rebuild after words like those? And tell me where you're watching from. Maybe the beaches of California, the mountains of Colorado, or right here in a small town where the winters are long, but the people are real. I see you, and it means everything, because the best way through the hard parts is choosing yourself every single time. Take care, friends, and thank you for being here.